Hi guys, I'm live with Rant. I have three things I want to talk about in this rant. It may take me a long time. I'm sorry if I take too much of your time, but I've got some things to discuss. I have three different things. So if I can remember them all, let me get them straight in my head. Okay, got it. So I have sympathy for haters today. I relate in a way because there's direct haters. I think there's like several types of haters. There's direct haters that just really don't like me, don't like what I'm doing, don't whatever, blah blah blah, and I can't help those, but yet they're going to exist, and they do. There's a second kind of hater that I don't really, that I actually relate to because I've had it too. There's the type of hate where they hate what they can't become because they know that I'm doing something they wish they could do, and it makes them mad at me, and they express it as hate. And rather than think that that's a bad thing or jump down their throats right now, I actually take an honest look at myself, and I've done the same thing.
Hi.
You're doing great. Hi, Lauren.
I gotta go clock.
Lauren, say hi to YouTube.
Hey, YouTube.
This is my friend Lauren. We hang out, and we're really good friends. She's really cool.
Hello.
She's wearing black. That's so fucking cool.
My scrubs. But
Yeah.
I got
Okay. Good to see you, Lauren. Have a good rest of your day.
Cool.
That's my friend Lauren. She's really cool. Cool black car, cool black. She's wearing black. That's really cool. She's cool. So, yeah. Rather than, bash those kind of haters, though, let me just admit that I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to grow up in the '80s, and it's like I hated Robert Plant. No, I'm not saying I'm Robert Plant, but I hated him, but yet I wanted to be him. And that's Sean Cassidy. Jim Morrison, who I didn't realize might be my dad, Eddie Van Halen, David Lee Roth. Some part of me hated these people, but yet at the same time, I was doing what I could to become them. And my hate was a displaced jealousy. And I'm not saying who does that and who doesn't, because there are the first kind of haters too that really just don't like me. And I get it. I'm not going to please everyone. Bill Cosby said, they asked him what the secret of success is. Bill Cosby said, I don't know what the secret to success is, but the secret to failure is trying to please everybody. And so I really don't want to do the secret to failure and try to please everybody. So there are haters that just hate me, and that's the end of the story. But I just want to say that. And the second thing I want to say, the second topic, is I want to discuss my dad and maybe in a more positive light than I have before. My adopted dad. I realize he kicked my ass. I get it, okay? But the more I think about it and all that, the more I realize that was necessary for part of how he trained me for everything else. Like, he couldn't have done it a softer way. There wasn't an easier way to get through to me, so he had to hit me. But it was for a good cause because I'm still here and it worked. So I want to thank him. Thank you, Dad. This is your Navy SEAL dog tags. I have them here. If you can see them, I don't know. Can you see them? They actually have my name on it because I'm junior, so it doesn't specify senior or junior. So if I really want to be a dick, I could say these are my tags, but I would never do that, Dad, because that's stolen valor. I'm not going to do that, of course. So I want to say that to my dad. If you're listening, if your conscience is still aware of anything, or if then thank you for the long game where I didn't like you at first, and I didn't like growing up. I didn't like what was happening, but yet in the long game, I'm still here and mission accomplished, so to speak. So thank you. Third thing is off. These are very tangential topics. Third thing is music. I want to talk about chromaticism, atonality, and the chromatic scale. So are you ready? Because I'm just learning some of this stuff myself. So there's a thing in color theory called chrome, and there's a thing called tone. Chrome is color, like red, yellow, orange, blue. That's chrome. And note the word chromatic has chrome as a root in it, referring to color. And then there's tone, which is like grayness. How much gray, black, or white is added? There's tint, which is light, whitish tones. There's tones, which are gray tones, and then there's shades, which are black type of tones. And they're the darkness and lightness of it, the relativeness of it. So light red is pink, dark red is whatever, rose, I don't know what it's called. What is it? Burgundy or something like that, or whatever. So there's tone, and then we call our music scales that are tonal, we call them tonal scales. It's like tone and color. We say the pentatonic scale means 5 tones. Diatonic, row of tones. Tones is in the words. But with that, after having said that analogy, I'm not sure I know any more about the connection between light and sound because it's very deep, and I'm not sure I'm qualified to further comment on that. But musically, I'd like to comment on the chromatic scale versus tonal scales and how you can use them in music and what I recently have discovered, which isn't everything, because of course I don't know everything. So usually you take a major scale, and it's like C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And they call it coloring, or coloring if you put a note in between any of the 5 whole steps to make a chromatic 2 steps in a row. Like they call it, I call it coloring in the interval. So coloring in a whole step is just 2 half steps that add up to the whole step. Coloring in a minor third is 3 half steps, which color in the area of a minor third. Major third coloring is 4 half steps coloring the major third interval, and usually not too much done, but it's possible. Yeah, I was coloring them. You can color a perfect fourth. It'd be 5 consecutive half steps to color in a perfect fourth interval, and you can color in 6 half steps would be coloring in a tritone. 7 half steps is coloring in a perfect fifth, etc. 12 half steps is coloring the whole octave. Okay, it's really called the chromatic scale. And I discovered a scale yesterday about that Jimi Hendrix played in Third Star from the Sun. I have been talking about that song and how I got my head around it, but I didn't have my head completely around it until last night. I had an idea for how he chooses the notes of the feedback notes, which aren't always fed back. They're fed back, but they're also distorted, and they're sometimes fretted, and sometimes harmonics, or sometimes just feedback. But I got all the notes together. I thought he was doing a certain thing, but I wanted to check it out. And by checking it out, I found out what he was doing, and he was playing what I now call the Third Star from the Sun scale. It's basically, I explained it on my Quora account. I explained it on a question. It's basically, and I did a lesson on it this morning. I did it. Did I have a guitar in it? Yeah, I think it was with a guitar in my hand. Yeah, it's basically if you're in say you're in the key of E, you play an E note, and you go a major third above that, which would be G sharp, and then you color in the next minor third. So that's G sharp A sharp B. That's so G sharp to B is a minor third that's colored in, 3 half steps in between them, and then you go from B to D, and that's an open minor third, no color, just the notes B and D. Then they have an open minor third from D to F, no half steps in between there, and then a colored minor third from F to G sharp, which is F sharp, G, and G sharp, and that ends the scale. So it's actually if you don't count the E as the root, there's actually 8 notes, but one of them repeats in the octave. So there's actually you can start counting at 1 to 9, but the 9 and the 1 are octave equivalents, and then the major third below that is the E, which makes a ninth note, but actually 10 if you count the 2 octave repeated notes. And this is what I call in the key of E. This is the Third Star from the Sun scale. You can play it in any key, but that's it in the key of E. And I like that. I like how that works out. It's like if you think of it this way, it's the G sharp. Once you're on G sharp, which is the major third above the E, you're playing a G sharp diminished seventh arpeggio, starting and ending with a G sharp. But in 2 of the minor thirds, you're coloring in 2 half steps in between, 3 half steps in between, by adding 2 more notes in between the minor third notes. So it's basically there's 4 notes in the diminished seventh arpeggio. Then if you take the 2 notes that color in one of the minor third notes, 6 notes. And if you take the other 2 notes that color in the other minor third, you get 8 notes. The octave equivalence makes it 9. The 10th note is the E below, which actually makes 8, separate original notes. It makes 9 separate original notes. There's 8 original notes, but an octave repeated on at the 9th note for the diminished 7th part, and then the added E below makes a 9th note. That's actually, makes a 10th note where there's actually 9 notes individually that are independent and unique in that scale. And that's, and I call, that is actually like the skeleton of it. If you take the diminished seventh, the G sharp diminished seventh, and add the ninth, the E at the bottom, it's actually an E dominant 7 flat 9 arpeggio. It's a 5-note arpeggio, but then you repeat the octave of the third, which makes 6. Then you add two more to make it colored on 1 minor third, that's 8. 2 more make it colored on the other minor third, that's 10. And then there you have the 10 notes that are phrased in the E third tone from the sun scale. And it's a brand new scale. I mean, and every time, and all the feedback notes, all the notes he wails on in third tone from the sun, they all fit. There's not a single exception. They all fit in that scale. So either Jimmy was just channeling it and using his feel and just somehow got a hold of that formula naturally or intuitively, or he actually thought it out. I don't know. But in either way, I've thought it out, and it's a thing. And I've used it. I used it also again when I did last night. I also did the Doors. I did the Doors when it was over, and Robbie Krieger does a really cool solo where it's very dissonant. And I don't use his exact solo, of course, but I do. Again, that song's in E, and I actually used the E third tone of the sun solo in part of my solo too when the music's over, when the Doors, which I did last night after I did Third Tone of the Sun. And it sounded good to me, you know. I think it's a very versatile type of scale. You can work it on anything where you want to sound weird, you know. It's like it's not a Western idea. It's got 12 notes is all, but it's very not non-diatonic, non-tonal, but yet there it is, all the notes you can use. It is a scale. It's not just like play anything, but it is a certain set of notes you can play that sounds good, has a good effect, I think. And so I'm almost done with this rant, but just one more thing, I think. But there's another way of using the chromatic scale that's more fun, but it's more chromatic. It's more 12-note version, and it's not really considered coloring in. It's the atonal system, where you're not really coloring in notes of diatonic scales or pentatonic scales or tonal scales. You're actually using the chromatic scale itself as a base, and there's no tonal reference at all. It's just atonal, and that's different from what I've been talking about. Yet it's also related, though, because it uses all 12 notes just in a different way. These 12-tone people, atonality, started by Arnold Schoenberg, and Barrick was a student, and Webern was another student. They did a system they used something called 12-tone rows, where each note, you could give each note a number like on a clock, 0 to 11, and then 12 would be 0 again. It's called mod 12. It means you repeat. The 12th one is the same as the 0th one. I think in numerology it's mod 9 because 0 is the same as 9. So it actually would be mod 9 because, but anyway, I'm digressing there. And that's a different thing. That music sounds very dissonant, very unpleasant to me, and it's not very. Most people agree with me. That's why classical music came back in the 20th century. That's why they called it neoclassical, because neo means new. Classical music came back again because atonality, serial composition was a flop, and so people, instead of going with that direction, they just kind of stepped back and went back to Mozart and all that. And that's why they had the term neoclassical. It means new age classical for today. So guitarists like Yngwie that call themselves neoclassical aren't really the neoclassical people. Those were the people that really went back to classical before them in the classical orchestra people scene. But it's a cool name. Neoclassical sounds cool. Why not? For rockers, whatever. But that does exist. There's a way of breaking down the 12 tones of the chromatic scale where there's no tonality. It's just you play one note and you can't play that note again until you played every other note. So every note gets equal shake, equal time, equal presence, and therefore there's no tonality at all. It's kind of like brown or something where you just put all the colors together and you would get like a brown color. And everything would be brown because it's all the same. That's kind of like what serial music is like to me. Whereas with tonal music, you can use the 12 tones as color in a traumatic tonal scale for a slightly, a different approach that I might think is better. But I don't want to discount that. I don't want to eliminate anything. 12-tone music has its purpose. Jaco Pastorius did a lot of that, I think. He would name notes, numbers, and just play numerically, and that's good. I mean, whatever works. I'm nobody to say classical. H&L sucks. Don't use it. No, I'm just saying it's different than the other way of using the chromatic scale, which is the color tonal scales. So, I'm actually honestly, I'm fascinated by 8-tonal music. I just haven't really used it yet in my practice. I haven't reached to a creative spot on that yet, but doesn't mean I won't. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Love you guys. Peace, love, and rock and roll.